TBTL. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Hey Dummies. My name is Andrew. I will be your dummy today, along with this little guy who you can barely see on camera. His name is Bingo, and he's a cat who wants to play with me right now and bite me and lick me, apparently. This is so distracting. I love this cat so much. I also have his hair all over me. I did not know he was a long-haired cat when we got him, and he's grown into a long-haired cat, and this is our first full summer with him, and he is shedding like crazy. One of my favorite things to do is kiss him, but then when I kiss him, I walk away with a beard full of long cat hair. Anyway, he's right here. He's trying to steal this paper from me. I'm not going to let him do that, and I'm going to try to focus on the task at hand today, which is answering a question from a listener. In fact, I can always use more questions, can I, Bingo? You can email me, andrew@tbtl.net. You can send questions specifically for me or specifically for Luke, or general questions that you'd like to hear either one of us answer. Sorry. Oh, this guy. He's been sleeping all day and now he wants to play. Anyway, here's a good question that we got from the listener Nancy, who says, "Hi, when did Power Out start, and who is it that says it? I was AWOL a couple of years." Okay. "And I missed some important stuff on the show." Again, that is from listener Nancy. Now, I actually have a pretty good answer to this, I think. Good job. I have a pretty good answer to this, I think, but I want to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about in case you've never made it to the end of an episode of TBTL, which, by the way, if you haven't, no shame. I'm sure you're a very busy person. But at the end of every episode of TBTL, starting, I think, back in 2015, you'll hear Luke and I say goodbye. We'll say our little "No Mountain Too Tall" and "Good Luck to All" at the end of the show. The music swells for a moment, and then you'll hear a single voice, a single Australian voice on a telephone saying,
"Power out."
Now, where did Power Out originate? Long before that recording was created, I'm going to say way back in 2012-ish, Luke and I were working at a local radio station called Cairo Radio. A lot of you guys know that. And we were working on a show together, a different show than TBTL. And the radio station hired a consultant to come in and, I think over the course of 2 days, give us some advice on how to produce better radio shows. I was a producer at the time, Luke was a host, but I think everybody in the programming department and newsroom had to go to these sessions. And I can't remember the name of the fellow who led them. He's a very, very nice guy. I would like to say that he's like kind of I think he's a local radio guy who became a local consultant radio guy who is very well liked in the area. I don't want to be mean to him. However, being a couple of sarcasmos, Luke and I, and not being the type of guys who really go in for consultants that much, I think we went into these sessions with a healthy amount of skepticism, right? And I don't know how much you guys have dealt with kind of consultants' presentations, but you know, they'll often come up with little, I don't know, maybe tricks or things that they come up with themselves as a way of kind of organizing, I guess, organizing principles or what have you, and maybe they'll give them a cute little name. Now, this consultant came up with several things that he recommended us hosts and producers doing to prepare talk radio segments, and he had little expressions that went along with them. So for example, he would talk about the process of planning a segment, and he said the first thing you should do is you should just write every idea you have down on the paper. Don't be an editor yet, just write it all down on the piece of paper, get it all out there, you can organize it later. And he called that madmanning. You're just a madman and you're throwing everything out on the paper. Not super sensitive to those who struggle with mental health issues, I suppose. What else did he have? He had dazzling details. That is something that you hear Luke and I say on the show a lot. We call them dazzling deets, but that came from the same session where this guy said the thing that people want to hear on the radio are the dazzling details of a story. And he also said one of the ways to get, or the proper way to get out of a radio segment is not to just sort of meander your way out of it, but to have a strong power out. Now, the thing about this presentation is this consultant, as he threw these expressions or whatever the sayings on the PowerPoint, after each one was a little TM, a little trademark. And Luke and I, I think privately, or I guess not so privately, I guess on TBTL, kind of laughed about this idea that like you really need to trademark the idea of a dazzling detail, or you need to trademark the idea of a power out. Now the irony is, we basically have stolen these things. I mean, the joke was, why would you put a trademark on something like power out? And now we've been saying power out on TBTL for almost a decade now. So that's the origin of power out. Luke and I would be talking on the show, and then we might say, well, I don't really have a power out to this story, so I'm just going to sort of meander my way out of it. And we'd say, boy, there's a dazzling detail for you. Well, we say these things enough, they sort of end up getting kind of codified into our conversation. And one day, I think this was back in 2015, we received a voicemail. You can always call our voicemail line, by the way, 206-414-8285. That's 206-414-TBTL. We received a voicemail from a listener in Australia, and her name is Linda, and she finished whatever her point was. I don't know what it was, and she just said, power out, and hung up the phone. And we played the voicemail, and we loved it, and we loved the power out. And we said everybody should just say power out at the end of their voicemails now. And a lot of people still do, to this day, end their voicemails to us by saying power out. And then I also clipped that little piece of tape of Linda in Australia saying power out, and we decided we were going to end every show with her voice saying power out. I think I was kind of taking that idea from the early days of TBTL when they were on the radio. Luke and Jen had a little piece of tape. I think it was somebody saying nailed it, that they would play at the end of every show, and I really liked that sort of commercial radio vibe. And so when we heard Linda say power out, I was like, oh, that's perfect. We got to end every show with that. So it's Linda in Australia, who is still a listener and a friend to the show, who is saying it. And power out was a phrase that was accidentally stolen when we made fun of a guy for presenting it to us who was concerned about us stealing it. If you would like to send us any more questions about TBTL or our lives or our cats and why they're so cute and why they're so naughty, you can email me, andrew@tbtl.net, and put Hey Dummies in the subject line. I think I'm going to play with this cat for a while. Bye now. He's cleaning himself.
Power out.